brand ambassador. And Jen, there is something going on the screen, so I think that's okay. There's a little message there.
Yeah, it might be telling you that I started a recording or that
okay.
I spotlighted the video.
Okay, so
okay?
Do we need to do anything about that, or?
Nope,
Okay.
You're good to go.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to start my intro again. So thanks for being here and joining me in the community classroom. I'm Amy Karanik, and I'm a Sculpey brand ambassador and also a clay artist. And today in the classroom, we're going to be featuring Liquid Sculpeys. We're going to look at some new Liquid Sculpey colors that maybe you haven't seen. We're also going to use a lot of the current colors that we have going. And we're going to be filling the silicone bakeable jewelry mold with all the colors. We're going to fill every cavity in this mold. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And then this just goes right in your oven, and it bakes up pieces for pendants, earrings, key fobs, whatever you want to make. We're also going to focus on throwing some cool inclusions in there like glitter, bits of foil, composite leaf, also even pieces of Primo Sculpey. Those are going to go in the mold as well. So I think we're all ready to get started. If Stacy, you want to shift our view to the workstation, then I'm going to show people how to fill the mold. So I just have the mold laying right flat in front of me, and I need to orient it the way I've done this project over and over and over. When you use Liquid Sculpey, and this is how it looks in the package, you want to be sure and stir it really well. Now, I'm working with about 10 or 11 colors today, and Jen was kind enough to stir all of those for me. But this one is the clear, and it needs a little bit more attention when you're stirring it, because it's got a lot of really special ingredients in it that actually make it go clear. So in order to stir it really well, what I like to do is get as much of the product as I can out of the bottle. And I just dump it into a glass or a metal vessel, even a silicone dish, anything like that, where it can be stirred well, and make sure you've got all the ingredients incorporated. Once I have my clear Liquid Sculpey spilled out into the dish, I just leave it there until it's gone. I just use it from the dish. I don't try to get it back into the bottle. So just cleaning up my tool a little bit. And then what I want to show you is that this clear liquid has a lot of inconsistency. It's got some thick areas and some thin areas. And that is because those are those special ingredients I was telling you about that make it go perfectly clear after it's baked. So you want to work all those back in. So I hope you can see how, Jen, can you see that? How it's got some thick areas and some thin areas. So yeah, just get that stirred really well. And then when I'm using clear Liquid Sculpey, I stir it every single time I use it. Now, another good tip is to use Sculpey liquid clay conditioner, and I'm going to put just a few drops of that in. And it's super clear, and it doesn't change the color of any of your liquids. So it can be used with any liquid that we have to make it thinner. And that can also kind of speed up this process of incorporating all that good stuff. So I think we're good to go. Now I keep a lot of paper towels at my workstation, because that's just a real inexpensive way to clean my tools, and then they're just ready to use again. All right, I'm going to orient my mold right back in the front again, and I'll pull in my first project is going to be this trapezoid shape, and with it I'm going to make a pendant piece and a couple of earring pieces. This one's already assembled, and this one is not. And you can just see how clear and pretty that is after it's baked. So in order to make this piece, I've incorporated some gold stars, and this is like a star-shaped glitter, and a turquoise foil glitter. And all I need to do is just fill my little areas with some clear Liquid Sculpey first. And don't fill it all the way to level, just fill it so that the whole bottom of the shape gets some liquid in it. And it's okay if I'm a little messy. So the mold has these little posts. I hope you can see those sticking up. Every shape has this little post in it. And that's so that your finished piece will have a nice little hole all the way through it for jewelry assembly. So that actually creates the hole that you need for the jump ring later. Now I always tap my mold once it's filled. And I do that several times throughout my project, just to make sure the air bubbles are out. Now you can use tweezers or you can use your fingertips to just grab some of these little star glitters and put those into place. And I like it to be just really random in there. So just get those in. And then what we want to do is backfill with a little more of the clear liquid to kind of coat the stars. And I'm going to backfill the earring shapes. So the smaller shapes are intended to be for earrings or for jewelry charms, and the larger shapes make a nice pendant, but they all are exactly the same shape and they make a nice set. Now I'm going to use tweezers or use my fingers to just put some of this foil glitter on the back of the pendant piece. I didn't use the foil glitter in the earrings just to show you, you know, a different look, but I am doing it there in the pendant piece. Now, ideally, you wouldn't be nervous and you'd go slow enough that you don't get foil in all the other shapes. So now that I've added that foil to the pendant piece, I'm going to backfill it with more of the clear. I'm going to leave the earring pieces, the two little ones, less full. That way they can be really a lot more thin and delicate. So I'll tap it again and just make sure I'm releasing bubbles. So that is the trapezoid shape. Let me set these out of my way and we'll go on to this teardrop shape next, right here. For the teardrop, I'm going to show you how I can custom mix the colors together. So this is the pendant piece that we're making, and this would be the earring shapes. This one is already finished, and that one's partially finished. So first, what we want to do is I love to use these little silicone baking cups. And these come from any baking department. They're for making cupcakes. Hey, if you guys have questions, you can type them in the chat room, and Jen will be glad to answer those for you. So I'm putting half clear and half garnet metallic in my little cup and stir it completely together. The reason I like these silicone baking cups is because they don't react with the liquid in any way. They're so friendly to be used together. And then when you're all done and you've scraped every bit of that product out of there that you can just slide that silicone cup right in your oven and the residue will then peel right back out. So I've got my custom color mixed, and next I want to add just a little bit of Composite Leaf. And this is a package of Composite Leaf, and mine happens to be variegated. Composite Leaf comes in silver, it comes in gold, copper, any kind of metal colors. And what you want to do is just grab bits of it with your tweezers. And then what I do is just line it down in the bottom of the mold as best as I can. And I'm going to do that with each of the teardrop shapes. I'm just using my finger to get it down in there. Now it looks kind of solid, but I find that once I backfill with the liquid, it kind of gets a nice crackly effect like you can see on this finished piece. And that just kind of happens naturally, okay? So I'm going to burnish that down into the bottom so it sticks and the liquid doesn't get under it. And then I can just take my mixed color and I'll squeeze my silicone cup and just backfill with this pretty pearl and garnet color that I've made. And I'm filling these to level this time. I can use my Sculpey tools to help me load that all up. Make sure it goes all the way around that little post at the top. And let me wipe off my tool. Now again, I'm going to tap this to release air bubbles just gently. And this gets a little trickier and trickier as we're filling the whole mold, but you can do it if you're super careful. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside and we're going to move on to this triangle shape next. The triangle shape, this is kind of a cool project because I did it the opposite way, where for these two, the front of that piece is going to be the side that's down. But for the triangle piece, the side that's done is going to be up, or the finished side is going to be up. So here's what the shapes look like. And this one already has the earring finding on it. First, we're going to fill the entire shape with black Liquid Sculpey. I'm just filling it right from the bottle. I'm not mixing any new colors or anything. Just filling it right up to level. Okay, and then I'll just give that a little tap. If you have any air bubbles that won't pop by tapping, you can just get them with your needle tool. And then what I'm going to do, oh, sorry, let me fix my camera. I bumped it with all my supplies out there. Then what I'm going to do is, that's the wrong color, I need pearl. I'm going to make some streaks across the surface like you can see here with pearl and with silver. So I have these open. Now a good trick for you to do would be just like on the side of your work surface, you might see how runny this is and just do a little practice run. Because what I want to do is just make some streaks of this pearl color right across the face. And it looks messy, but later after it's baked, I'll show you how you trim that and make it look really neat. So that's the pearl color. And then I'm going to do the same thing with silver. So I'll just do a little practice run here to see how well I can write with it. And then just go back and forth with the silver, maybe even go kind of in opposite areas from the pearl so that you can see it. And if you get too many streaks, you can always go back with a few stripes of black as well. Now to top that off, I'm using an inclusion. This is a very specialty item. This is called pepper. I like to use pepper sometimes because it's natural and it's easy to get, but also it has the quality of having dark and light areas to it, and so it makes kind of a neat little neat little add-on. So I'm just sprinkling pepper over that. Okay, so that's the triangle shape. And I'll set these aside and we'll move on to the hearts. Okay, the heart one is kind of a marbled effect. Here's how I made a bracelet with the heart pieces. So let me show you how they look. And they're very swirly. They look sort of glassy and they're real random. It's a really pretty effect and it's quite easy to do. So I'm going to use another of these silicone baking cups. And I've got 4 colors that I want to use. This is going to be kind of a monochromatic little project. So this one is translucent turquoise, and this one is peacock pearl. And it doesn't matter what order you put these in your little cup. You just need something to drip the different colors into. That was navy metallic, and then this one is white. Now that I have the colors, I have like 1 layer of each color. Now I'm just going to go back and randomly place a second layer of color right on top. Oop, I can't do that because I gotta have somewhere to put the translucent turquoise. So I'll put the translucent turquoise here. So now I kind of have 2 layers of randomly placed sets of colors. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tip the little cup and pour it into the shapes, and they will swirl themselves as they go in. And that's what gives you that real random glassy look, almost like blown glass. A tip for this one is to hold your cup really close to the shape while you're pouring, because it helps the colors hold together better. and you can still see each individual color inside there. So isn't that pretty? I just love that. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside, and next we'll fill the open oval. And what we're going to do there, and I've got a little pepper floating around in there, so I'm just going to get it out. What we're going to do here is make a faux turquoise, not turquoise, faux tortoise shell. That's what this one's going to be. And the way it looks, this is really nice. I've got a couple pieces made that I wanted to turn into earrings. And then I have an additional piece that we can make for a matching pendant. Now there's only one of this shape in the mold, so you just have to fill it and rebake it as many times as you want if you want to make like a matching set like this. So I actually did that 3 times to get the pendant and the earring pieces. First I'm going to put just black in, and I want my black to be like random, really random squiggles. And I even want the black to kind of come up on the sides every now and then. And if you want to make it even more random, you could go in with a tool and kind of stipple it around. But don't fill up the whole thing. I don't know if you can see it, but I did not, that's not filled completely. There's little blank spaces between the black areas. And in those blank spaces, I'm going to squirt this amber translucent. So I'll put it in the blank spaces first so you can kind of see where those are. And then we'll fill the whole mold. But this is what makes that really nice faux tortoise shell look, is this amber color. Okay, and then we want to be sure and tap again. That's going to get a little tricky with the tapping, but just take your time and know that you don't have to do it in front of a camera. All right, so that one's full. Now we'll go back and do this last piece, and I accidentally got some glitter in there, but that's okay. So let me put my tortoise shells out of the way, and we'll do this last one. Okay, this last one is really unique because I actually incorporated bits of chopped up Primo Sculpey into the mix. And what it did was it gave me this sort of a liquid terrazzo look, like a poured terrazzo floor. And I love that. It's actually bits of clay that are suspended in the clear Liquid Sculpey. So let me show you what I made with those. Here's the shape all by itself, and then there's an earring and a key ring that I have done up. And so here I have, on this little piece of paper, these are bits of chopped Primo. And when I say Primo, I mean solid Primo Sculpey. This is unbaked Primo Sculpey clay. And I've got some alizarin crimson, I have Spanish olive, white, beige, and I have Twinkle Twinkle, which is one of my favorite colors, Twinkle Twinkle. All right, let me show you how I achieved those little bits. So I'm going to move the mold out of the way for just a second. All you have to do is take some of the Primo clay right off of the bar, and then you just chop it with your super slicer. I'm trying to make sure I'm under the camera so you can see. And you just keep chopping and chopping until you get little tiny bits.
Hey, Amy, they
yes.
want to see a bar of Primo. Can you show
Oh,
me
sure.
this?
Yeah. So this is Sculpey Primo. This happens to be my favorite color, Twinkle Twinkle. Primo comes in lots and lots of colors. Some of them have mica.
Flip it.
This way?
Yes.
Some of them have mica powder to give them kind of a metallic sheen. This one happens to have glitter in it, which gives it a real like night sky quality. And this is oven baked clay. So in its raw state, it's very soft like what I'm working with here. And it stays soft and flexible until you bake it in your home oven at 275 for 30 minutes. And then after that, it's very strong and durable. So a lot of artists love to use Primo Sculpey for jewelry making. And the point of this is I just wanted to show you that you can incorporate some of your favorite oven baked clays right into the Liquid Sculpey and get a whole unique look. So I'm not going to chop on that a bunch more. I think you get the idea. If you don't, you can ask Jen and she can tell you herself. Right, Jen?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first what I want to do is put a little of the clear Liquid Sculpey in there, just like I did that trapezoid shape next door. I'll just put some of this in here, and this piece will be super unique because it's got my glitter, my foil glitter in there that I accidentally dumped in. So put some clear Liquid Sculpey in the bottom of each of these marquee shapes. And this is a great little tool here. This is a baby spoon. My son Eddie is watching and taking the class today, and this spoon might have actually been Eddie's from when he was a baby. It says the name of the hospital on it that he was born in. In fact, that all my kids were born in. So I've saved those spoons and hoarded them up for craft projects. So next I'm just going to sprinkle in the unbaked bits of Primo Sculpey. And this is what these little bits being suspended in here is what will give it that neat like terrazzo look. Almost like a poured commercial floor. I always start with the darkest colors first because in this piece, well, I don't know why I do that. You can do it however you want to. I was going to say this is going to be the backs of the pieces, but by putting the dark colors in first, they're actually going to move forward, but that's okay. There's no logic to it. You just got to find, you know, how you like to work and then work in that way. So I'm putting a little alizarin crimson in there. I'm putting some Spanish olive. I've had these little bits of Primo for a long time. I did several videos on terrazzo with these bits of Primo, and it's such a great color combination. I just keep using them. So next I'm adding some white bits. Sorry, my hands are in the way. I'm basically dropping tiny bits in tiny cavities is what I'm doing. So, and then last I'll do the beige. This piece, the finished piece also has bits of the gray granite in it. So we'll throw just a few of those in there too. So I think you're getting the idea. You just suspend some of these bits of Primo in that unbaked Liquid Sculpey. And once it's pretty full, we'll just move a bunch of these out of the way. Once those are pretty full, what we want to do is backfill with more of the clear liquid. So I think I mentioned earlier that once I spill my clear Liquid Sculpey into this dish in my own studio, I leave it in the dish all the time. I stir it every time I use it to make sure all the parts are incorporated. And then I cover it loosely with just like a plastic lid, just to keep you know, dirt and dust out of my clear liquid. So just keep filling until the little shape is completely level. I have got a really big piece right there that's not covering, so. All right. Now, if you have any stubborn bits that are like wanting to stick up above the surface of the level, you can just poke them in with a needle tool or with one of your Sculpey clay tools. Okay, now we're going to give this whole tray just one more tap. Just a gentle tap, releasing air bubbles. I've got a little baking pan here, and I'm going to carefully slide this onto the baking pan. And then that will go in my home oven. Now I'm going to bake these at 275 for 30 minutes, and that will set all the pieces completely solid. 275 for 30 minutes, even though the clear Liquid Sculpey has a higher baking temperature, because the other ones cure at 275. We're just going to bake them all at once at 275. Now, I just so happen to have a whole tray that's baked. So I want to show you what to do next. Now, because the clear liquid Sculpey, it needs a higher temperature to go completely clear. So you can see this piece here. This is the clear liquid Sculpey with those Primo bits in it. It's not clear and shiny yet because it didn't reach the higher temperature. This one has already been completely cleared, and this one has not. And I'm hoping that you can see the difference. This one is like super shiny, and this one has a little matte finish to it. So what I would do to achieve that super clear finish is, as soon as this comes out of my oven and it's already 275 degrees, I would handle it with oven mitts. Be very careful with oven mitts. And then I would take my heat gun, and this is the kind of heat gun that comes from like a do-it-yourself store, like like a construction store or do-it-yourself home project type store. This has a low temperature setting and a high temperature setting, and it ranges in heat from about 350 to about 550. So I would plug this in. Now, I'm not going to do it on camera because it's kind of loud. It's hard to talk over, and it's hard to see what's going on. But what I would do is I would plug this in, and while my mold is still hot from the oven, I would put this on the high setting, and then I would just go over the mold, focusing on the areas that have the clear liquid Sculpey. And you can actually watch the clear liquid Sculpey. First, it will turn really glossy looking, and then it will go clear. Another cool trick is that the translucent liquid Sculpeys will also come up a notch. And let me show you here. This one is rather matte, and this one has been hit with a heat gun, and it just has a lot more shine. And the amber areas even have quite a bit more depth of color. So I hope you can see what I'm talking about. So any of the translucent colors and the clear colors will benefit from additional heat from a heat gun. But you need to practice, you need to go slow, you need to bring it up to temperature slowly, and just really be in control so that you don't burn anything. So that's how I do the heat gun. Jen, do you have anything else to add about the heat gun? Did I cover all that?
Yeah, you covered
okay.
it. Thank you.
All right. So these pieces are all baked, and all you have to do is just flex the mold to pop them out. So let me get back in the center here. And what fun that is. The beautiful little pieces. That one had the gold leaf. This one had the gold stars and the foil. Let's review how that one looks once it's been cleared. So you can really see the difference here, how shiny this one is and how matte looking this one is. And that's because the clear just needs to be brought up to that higher temperature to make it go to its absolute clearest. So let me keep popping these out. Now, sometimes you'll notice that they might need trimmed a little bit, and that's generally the case. If you don't get the mold filled exactly all the way up to the top, like these little trapezoid pieces. Remember I said I didn't fill the mold all the way up because I wanted my earring pieces to be thinner. Well, they have kind of a little ridge back here, and you can just feel it with your thumb. So what I do is I just take some time and just trim that off. I'm just using really sharp scissors and just following the edge. And that makes it just that much nicer and neater to finish the piece on the back as well. And that's really easy to do. This piece especially is going to need trimmed. That's the one that we dragged the pearl and the silver back and forth across. So what I do with that one is turn it over so I can see the shape really well. And then I'm just trimming that with my super sharp scissors again. And I'll do this with both the large piece and the small ones. So that's super easy. Now, believe it or not, I have other projects. I'll save all those little scraps. I save those and I incorporate those in various ways into other projects, but that's a whole nother story for a whole different day. But look how nice that looks now that it's all been trimmed. And you would want to do that with the matching earring pieces. You would just want to examine all your little pieces and make sure that you've got all the,
hey Amy,
yes, all the little scraps.
Someone wants to know if you could use a fine file to smooth the edges. instead of cutting?
Yeah, I think a fine file would be nice. And a cool thing I've noticed about baked liquid Sculpey is if you use scissors or a file, it won't, like the clear liquid won't get a white edge. There's another super popular product on the market that if you trim it or file it, that edge that you filed actually gets kind of a white edge to it. And that just doesn't happen with clear. You can just cut right through it, or I think you could easily file through it or sand it with rough sandpaper. It might just take a little bit longer, but you could definitely do that. Okay, so that's how you trim them. Now let's clean up just a second and take a look at how to finish pieces. So here's the little trapezoid set. We'll talk about how to use jump rings and how to make finished earrings and pendants out of these. I can't find my little dish of oh, here's these. Okay, so this piece is super easy. All you have to do is thread a jump ring through there, and it's always good to have, you know, some flat nose pliers. When you open jump rings, you always want to open them side to side like this. You don't ever open a jump ring, you don't open them this way. You open them this way. I hope that makes sense. You don't stretch them open. You always open them side to side like this. So you would pull one plier toward you and one away. And then when you close them, you want the two ends of that jump ring to just kiss each other really well right there at the seam so that your little skinnier parts don't fall back through. Jen, how are we doing on time?
We're at 5:30.
Oh, cool. Okay, so this piece is so easy. I've got my jump ring there, and then all I have to do is thread a chain on, and that is automatically a necklace. Next, let's talk about how to make the earring. So the matching earrings that I made for the trapezoid pieces, I actually used little seed beads and created these super tiny dangles. So on this jump ring, there's some blue seed beads and some of those little star glitters. And then I have another jump ring to allow me to hook it to the earring piece. And then I have an ear wire that I have put just like a very short piece of chain, gold coordinating chain. I just cut a piece of chain with my wire cutters. And then all I have to do is open this jump ring and insert the chain on one side. And then remember how I talked about keeping that little post, surrounding that little post in the mold. That goes right in through that post area, and that's the automatic hole. So you don't need to drill these pieces. They already have a hole that's provided for you inside the mold. So there's the finished earring pieces. Okay, next, let's make the composite leaf pieces. Here's how I did them. So this is like a big connector that's available at Michael's, and I just used a larger jump ring to connect it to this large connector. And then what I can do is just take a jump ring that I already have opened, and I'll add that to the other side of the connector. Yes, 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 I will. I'll add it there, and then grab that with 2 sets of pliers and twist those shut.
Hey, Amy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about if you wanted to add a hole at the bottom, how you would do that?
Okay.
Like to dangle another piece.
Yeah. So if you wanted to dangle another piece from the bottom, Liquid Sculpey drills really well. So a lot of times I use a Dremel tool with very fine bits. That's what I keep in my studio for drilling holes. You could use a Dremel tool to drill a hole. If you don't have a Dremel, another great tool to have in your work area is called a spring drill or a pin drill. And it's about the size of an ink pen, and you can load it with different size drill bits. And then you actually kind of pump it up and down like that. And as you pump it up and down, it spins the little drill bit and it can create a hole in the liquid. So those are a couple good tools. Another way that's a little more cumbersome, but I've done it many times, is, so say we have these liquid pieces here and they're not baked yet. And what you could do, and I have done this on several different projects, is you could actually balance a jump ring kind of on the edge like this, and then backfill with Liquid Sculpey to attach the jump ring in place. And then after it's baked, you could even secure it further with a little bit more Liquid Sculpey and another baking, or a piece of Primo Sculpey and another baking. And this would give you obviously a different effect at the bottom where you'd have a loop instead of a hole. So those are some different ways that I have added connectors to other areas of the Liquid Sculpey pieces other than the little post at the top. So I hope that answered your question. If not, then try me again. Okay, so I got to wipe some of that Liquid Sculpey off my hands. There's the necklace piece that is all finished with a big connector and the liquid piece in the middle. And then for the earrings, I just have a very simple ear wire connected with 2 jump rings, like so. And these kinds of ear wires are super simple. When you buy these, they don't have this little hook here. And I like to bend that hook up in the ear wire so that when it goes through the loop, I feel like it's more secure to be worn. But the liquid piece has been baked and it's got a larger jump ring through it. It takes about an 8 or 9 millimeter jump ring to go through that way, because they're kind of thick if you fill them all the way to level, and then just string your jewelry piece on and it's good to go. A cool thing about this type of earring is you could always switch out the dangle at the bottom, and you could have interchangeable earring pieces in all kinds of different colors. So there's that one. Next we'll move on to how I finished the triangle pieces. So I showed you how those need to be trimmed, and the little pieces, they still need their trimming. Here's another one that I have done. So for the earrings, I'm gonna need just a second to untangle all this chain that got stuck together in my bin. Just open the ear wire, there we go. Okay, so this one's really similar too. I just have a couple jump rings, a larger one and a smaller one through the little earring piece, and then that just goes onto the ear wire. Now, if you want to, you can kind of crimp this area down here so that your art piece doesn't fall off. And then what you would want to do is kind of rebend your wire back out. But that will hold your earring piece securely in place on the wire. So that's how I did the earrings. For the pendant piece, I thought this piece looked really kind of spacey. So I like the idea of incorporating stars. And what I did there was I took a head pin. This is a 2-inch head pin. And I just threaded on some of these black seed beads, and then alternated every once in a while putting one of these tiny, tiny silver star pieces in. And you would just fill that up as much as you want to make this sort of a dangle. I'll show you on another piece how to finish that off, but for right now I just want to show you how to turn this into the pendant piece. So I would have my pendant, my clay pendant piece, and then I would attach my dangle so that it kind of hangs in the front. And then I would close that jump ring, and again, closing your jump ring side to side. And then that's ready to be strung on a coordinating chain, like so. I always try to pick out findings that look nice with the colors of my clay pieces, and I love that you can get so many different colors of metal, and you can get gold and bright gold and silver and bright silver and dark colors of chain. So to make the bracelet, and here's our little heart shapes. So to make this into a bracelet, what I did first was I made several connectors out of head pins. And let me show you how I did that. Actually, these are not head pins, these are eye pins. So this is a 2-inch eye pin, and you can see down here that it has a little loop where I already have a jump ring attached. Okay, so this 2-inch pin is going to actually be one section of the bracelet as a connector. So then all I had to do was string on these are large seed beads, or I call them E beads. They're size E, and these are bright silver. So I've got a bright silver E bead, and then a tube bead and a bright blue. Then next I'm putting on a crystal, and then another bright silver, and then another tube, and then one more bright silver. And at the end, I want to show you how to finish this off. So what you want to do is grab some round nose pliers. Let me show you the connector first. So I have all those beads strung on a 2-inch eye pin, and I have just a little bit of tail left. And that's about the minimum amount. That's probably a little more than 1/4 of an inch. That's probably the minimum amount of tail that you would want. And I'll just grab the very tippy tip end and just bend it with round nose pliers, and I'm just bending another eye in the other end. Then when I get the loop, okay, let me show you that. So there I've bent a loop. And then I want to kind of pull the loop back towards center. So I just grabbed it with the round nose pliers and pulled it back. So to make this bracelet, I actually made the lengths of the bracelet with 4 of these connector series. Then I hooked all those connectors together with jump rings. And it looks kind of fancy, but it's really quite simple when you break it down to the smallest element. So I'll open up this jump ring and add it to my connector there and close it up. Now on one end I have a loop connector, and on this end I'll use a toggle. So a loop and toggle is what this is called, this kind of clasp. It comes with a loop and a toggle. And I need to take this huge jump ring off here. I think that was part of the packaging. So I'm just going to set that aside. And then I'll open this smaller jump ring, and I'll use that to connect my toggle to the bracelet itself. And that's how you add that sort of connector, or clasp, I should say. Okay, and now all we need to do is add our beautiful hearts, our marbled hearts that we made. And for that, I'm going to use sort of a larger, again, it's that 8 or 9 millimeter jump ring that will go right through that hole in the heart.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
Someone wants to know how durable the charms are.
They're really durable. The charms are way more durable than the findings are. The clay parts are super durable. The challenge for me when building a charm bracelet or anything that has all these jump rings is, you know, getting your jump rings closed super well so that things don't fall back off. So, but the clay itself, these baked Liquid Sculpey pieces are super durable. They're almost, they almost kind of have a rubbery feel to them. That makes them really strong too. So that jump ring there would just be used to connect my hearts to the bracelet itself. And you can see how you would add the 2 smaller ones on either side and just make a real pretty delicate bracelet with those swirled hearts. Okay, next let's take a look at how I finished off the faux turquoise pieces. I keep wanting to tidy up my mess, but when I look at the camera, I see that you guys don't see all my mess, which is good. There's mess all the way around here. Okay, these are the earring pieces. And basically I did the exact same thing for the pendant piece. I used a head pin and I created this little dangle just like we did in the bracelet earlier. I strung on some black and some amber little beads, and then I created that loop like I showed you with the heart. Let me see if you can see that better if I hold it there. I created that little loop. This is a really long head pin, so once you get, I'll just show you, once you get those pieces assembled on there, you're going to have to trim it. So let me show you how I guess where to trim. So I've got a black lentil bead and an amber lentil bead. So put those on. Now this head pin is way too long. So I take wire cutters and I cut that back to, if I have all the room I want, that's probably at least a ½ inch right there. So I would just cut that excess off. Then again, I would use my round nose pliers and bend that really tightly into a loop. And I like it when this loop that I made actually went around twice. And I really like that because it gives me a better feeling of security that it's going to really hold. So there's my finished loop. Let me put that on top of my finger so you can see it. There's that little bitty loop. And then that is where you can attach a jump ring, like so. And then that goes right through that hole again on the baked piece. Sorry. I don't know about you, but when I'm at home in my studio making pieces of jewelry, I actually kind of get to hold them closer to my face than when I'm doing it for a camera. So I've got that all the way through, and then I'm going to use my double pliers again to twist those tight. Like so. Now, I had to get kind of creative with this one because I want it to hang from a chain. And so I did the same thing for the earrings that I'm going to show you here. I just take another jump ring, and this one's quite large. It wouldn't have to be quite this big, but this is the back of the tortoiseshell piece. And I'm going to take this jump ring and loop it through that one. And this one's so big I can do it with my fingers. And then that would give you a mounting place for either your chain or for your earring finding, like you see here. And that would help the piece to hang correctly and be oriented the right direction when you wear it. So that's how the tortoiseshell one looks. And remember that there's only just the one shape of that one in the mold. So you need to make that one, you know, 2 or 3 times, however many times you want to get all the elements. But that's the beauty of that silicone mold, is that you can just bake over and over and over. It's basically indestructible, and you can just keep baking and making your pieces. For the earrings, for the terrazzo pieces, I have these beautiful connectors that we got at Michael's, and I'm just going to thread on another jump ring onto my little terrazzo piece and then connect it here. This earring piece has a little hole at the top. Makes it super easy to connect. And the earrings are voila, done. For the key fob, you can see how I just have a big jump ring attaching it to this keychain. And then I wanted to add a little dangle. So I did yet another one of those. I used green E beads and more of the black lentil beads in a larger size. And I made an eye on one end that I could put my jump ring through. And then this is ready to go right onto the key ring as well. Now key rings really take a lot of beading, so you want to make sure you've got your jump rings closed really, really well. So we would love to see what you make with Liquid Sculpey and with the Liquid Sculpey mold. If you want to post them on social media, you could use the hashtag make it with Michaels Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Make it with Michaels,
Michaels,
hashtag
yeah.
make it with Michaels. You can also, we would love to hear from you at Sculpey. You can use the hashtag how do you Sculpey. And oh, hello, there I am. So you can use either of those hashtags. We keep track of that stuff, and we love to see what our viewers have made and our creators and the community. And I'm available here if you have any more questions. I think, do we have a few more minutes, Jen? Or
We have 9 minutes.
we have 9 minutes, 9 minutes worth of questions. So if there's anything else I can show you, I'd love to.
Someone did have a question.
Uh-huh.
How, and I think this is what she means, how long does the clay last in the cup? So I think she's talking about the clear, you know how you said you cover it and then you keep using it. You can talk maybe a little bit about that. Yeah, so in the cup, it lasts as long as you need it to. So it might take me a busy week to use all that clear liquid, or it might take me a couple weeks or even a month. And as long as you keep it lightly covered with some sort of a lid to keep the dust and dirt out, it will stay usable indefinitely. Now, I did say, and I'll say it again, every time you use your liquids, you want to stir them before you put them in your mold or whatever you're using them for. If you're using the clear. Maybe can you show stirring in the bottle since we
Sure, yeah, I'll show you stirring in the bottle. Now, some of the liquids I just needed to grab a wipe. Some of the liquids will get a little thicker if they're left in an open vessel like that. But you can always handle that by adding in a few drops of liquid clay softener. That will thin it right back up. So you can be in charge of how thick or how thin you want it to be. So it can thicken a bit over time if left in an open vessel, but it won't dry out, and it will not become unusable. It might take a little longer to stir, but it won't become unusable. So this is a bottle of silver, and when I use any of the other colors that aren't clear, I just use one of my Sculpey clay tools and get all the way down there into the bottom and stir it. And the other colors just don't need as much stirring as the clear does. So now I just scrape as much of that product as I can right back into the bottle because I'm super stingy and I want to make it last and I don't want to waste it. And that's how you stir it in the bottle. And then you just put the cap back on. The cap is designed so that you can open it full wide for filling molds so that it squirts a really nice wide stream, or you can crank it down narrower and you can just squirt out a thin line like we did in the black triangle project. So you can be in control of how much comes out of the bottle at one time.
Can you talk about maybe some other stuff you could do, like window clings?
Sure, yeah. Like window clings are a popular project to be done with Liquid Sculpey. If you want to do a window cling in Liquid Sculpey, and Stacy, I think now I'm just going to be talking. So if you want to put my face, thank you. If you want to make window clings, what you would want to do is trace a picture and put it under a piece of glass. And then you want to pick a Liquid Sculpey that is a little thicker and will hold a nice line. So if you did want to open the lid on a Liquid Sculpey and let it thicken over time, or you can add mica powder to Liquid Sculpey and that will make it thicker. Then you would want to draw an outline or trace an outline on the glass of your window cling, and then you would want to bake that. Then what that would give you is some neat little wells that you could go back and fill in with other colors of Liquid Sculpey, and then bake it again, following the baking instructions. And then when you're all done, you would just peel it off the glass and it would become a window or a mirror cling. And the reason you bake it on glass is because Liquid Sculpey takes on the surface of whatever it's applied to. So if you put it on glass, it's going to have that really, really smooth surface on the back, which will then make it want to stick to glass. You could also do it on metal, but then you couldn't see through it to trace your drawing. So glass works really well for making window clings.
And a lot of people are asking about other things you could add to it, like seed beads.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
about that.
So yeah, there's a contest going on right now with some of us Sculpey Design Squad people where we have incorporated all kinds of cool stuff. I'm not going to tell you what I put in mine because I wouldn't want to unfairly garner votes. But yes, you can incorporate mica powder, glitter, seed beads, those teeny tiny marbles that people use. I've even done projects where I put sand in Liquid Sculpey and I just stirred the sand in and made like a paste. And
little shells.
Little seashells. I put seashells in Liquid Sculpey. So basically anything that can go in an oven at 275, which is quite a low temperature, can be incorporated into Liquid Sculpey. And so that is really a lot of stuff. Even paper doesn't burn at 275. So you could cover a piece of decorative paper with Liquid Sculpey and bake that. Do you think?
Have you ever tried fresh flowers? Someone wants to know.
Fresh flowers are tricky. Fresh flowers the Liquid Sculpey, especially if you're using the clear, it will tend to discolor your flowers. But you could use those dried flowers that come, like people use for nail art. A lot of awesome nail art things out there now that gives you teeny tiny details. Those can be incorporated into Liquid Sculpey. And just with any other craft medium that you do, you would want to do like a little test first to check for color fastness and just to make sure you know how it's going to come out before you jump right in and do your big project. If you want to try some dried flowers, I would do a little test first to make sure that the colors don't change. And it's generally not the Liquid Sculpey that changes it. It's generally the heat of the oven that will change the color of delicate things like flowers or maybe paper. Just certain things like that, heat can change the color of those. So good question. Any others? Any other questions?
What about feathers from someone's parrot?
Yes, I think that would be fine. I too have ornamental birds at my house, and while I have not, yes, I have baked feathers because I did a little sculpture of a bird and I poked real feathers in its, shall we say, in its dupa. And then I baked it in the oven, and feathers, the feathers baked fine. Now I didn't encase them in Liquid Sculpey, but I think that they would be okay to put in Liquid Sculpey. But yes, you can bake feathers, and I have done that. Yay me.
They want to know what your necklace is.
My necklace is so cool. This necklace was made by a friend of mine. Her name is Lynn Ure. And she is a Sculpey former Design Squad member. Is she on the Design Squad this year? But she's been on our Sculpey Design Squad. She teaches this class all around the country, and I had the privilege of taking her class. And she has incorporated black Liquid Sculpey in this. I'm not going to tell you how she did it, but in her class she uses bright colors of Primo Sculpey and black Liquid Sculpey. And I'm just really proud to have this piece that Lynn made. So thanks for asking, and I hope Lynn finds out. So any other questions? Okay, well, I hope everyone is enjoying their crafting time during our stay-at-home session, and I hope you're getting a lot done and that you're really using the time to explore your creativity and to just give it all you got, maybe try things that you've always wanted to try. And I'm so glad that you would take an hour out to be with me. And I'm just dying to see what you guys make. So post it on social media, be sure and tag us, make it with Michael's or how do you Sculpey, and we'll be looking for your creations online.